Merry Christmas! Time for Windows Weekly 136, our Christmas edition with Paul Thurrott. Coming up in just a bit, the death of PC gaming, the birth of real computing, and the real truth about what's happening to Microsoft Word. Windows Weekly is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott, episode 136 for Christmas Day 2009. We need more coal! Windows Weekly is brought to you by Audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, visit audible.com/windows and follow Audible on Twitter at audible_com. And by the new voice-activated Sync, featuring hands-free calling, music search, and turn-by-turn navigation. Available exclusively on Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury vehicles. For more details, visit syncmyridepodcast.com. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show that covers Microsoft, Zune, Windows, all the stuff coming out of Redmond, Washington, with our host, our dear friend, and mirth maker, Mr. Paul Thurrott of the Super.
Although, oddly, we're not going to talk about anything that you just mentioned this week.
Really?
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Well,
you never really know where it's going to go.
This is our Christmas Day edition. You could give us all a gift and talk about the Zune.
Okay.
We don't know. It's what's beautiful about this show is it could be anything. Hey, let's start. Because there's a Christmas gift in your office, I see right behind you. A lovely treadmill. Now more than ever, I think.
No, now more than ever.
You
need to get your fat ass on that thing.
We were talking before the show started. We were talking about those ads that say, now more than ever, doesn't she need a diamond?
Yeah, and they never make sense in the ad, but we have actually now identified 2 times when that would make sense. One had something to do with nose hair. And one had something to do with weight loss.
We were talking also. I got to fill people in now because they're just joining us.
Sure.
You really, folks, if you really want to enjoy the show, you should try the pre-show.
Yeah.
And that's not available for download. There's only one way to get the pre-show, and that's to watch us live every. What do we do this Thursday at?
What do we do this?
When do we do this? Every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, 1900 UTC at live.twit.tv. You can watch as Paul and I gas. For half an hour before the show begins. That's the best part, Paul. That's the good stuff.
I agree. I actually completely zone out for the actual recording of the podcast.
So we were talking about...
I've expended it all.
We were talking about depilation.
Depilation, yes.
Depilation. And the need that some gentlemen have, now more than ever, to deforest the nasal cavity.
As I called it, manscape.
Manscaping.
Yeah.
There was that really horrible web ad for an electric razor that you're supposed to, I gather, shave your back with or something. And he was talking, that's exactly what he said, manscaping. It was this horrible.
I think this is, if you were looking for a now more than ever moment with your wife, I think it's the moment when you hand her the razor and say, I need you to look at my back.
Here it is. AskMen.com. Manscaping.
Yikes.
Okay, I'm not going to read that anymore.
Gee, I was going to say, I hope that doesn't scroll down any further.
That's it. We're stopping right there. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. I'm in shock now.
Leo. Well, Leo, you have, what did you call her? I
have a facialist.
Which is a person who does your face.
Okay, this started because I used to be in TV, and as everybody knows, people in TV are incredibly vain. And it starts, hi, Frederic, Merry Christmas, aren't you sweet? You can open that now. I can open this. It's a Christmas gift from Frederic, my executive assistant. Is that the title you wish to have?
It's going to be a nose hair trimmer.
It could be. Operations manager. That's good. I like that. She's our operations manager. She does all the, decides what commercials, but she's on vacation. You're on vacation right now. What are you doing here?
I miss being here.
Merry Christmas. You know what? I had that feeling. I had that feeling. You miss work.
I do.
Oh, you sweetie.
I check it out online.
Oh, she's smart. A stress ball. Oh, look at this. This is hysterical. This is perfect. Oh, my goodness. It says on the stress ball, 404 error, file not found.
Nice.
Thank you.
That's the new Control Alt Delete.
Thank you so much. That is so funny. 404 error. That is perfect. That is
Netscape gray, or is that blue? I can't really tell.
It's blue, but shouldn't it be Netscape gray? I think you're right. That was very sweet of her. I gotta show you this. See if you can see. It says 404
nice.
Error, file not found. I don't know if I can take much more. Yeah, so I have a facialist because I used to be in TV.
Yes. Well, you still are in many ways, if you think about it.
Is this TV really?
This is going to be bigger than TV.
I hope so.
And you know why?
Why?
Have you ever watched TV recently?
Yeah, it's god awful.
I mean, think about it.
Oh, it's the worst. So, so this is what's replacing TV. So,
sure.
Anyway, you get used to in TV. You get used to having a makeup artist, some beautiful young woman, and they all—I don't know why, but they're all gorgeous. Probably because they wear a lot of makeup. And they come in and they paint your face, and you get used to this. And so it gradually goes from there to the manicure. Then they go, well, the eyebrows, and you have to get them waxed. And then they go, well, there's some hair coming out the side of your head. It should be coming out the top. Could you get that removed? And then it all goes from there.
It goes south, literally south from there.
It goes off the head and onto the ears.
Yeah.
So I'm just used to that. And so
see, I get a haircut pretty much.
Oh, and that's another thing. I've been told that I don't have a good haircut. So now I have to go to some fancy schmancy haircutter.
Jeez.
I've been going to my neighbor's garage.
You do look rugged today, if that's the right term.
Manly. Except for the sweater.
Except for the sweater.
He says I'm wearing a Cosby sweater.
It's okay.
You don't like it?
All right. It's nice.
All right. It's to hide the manscaping.
Yeah.
The scars.
I hope the little fibers are not intruding onto your sensitive skin, and hurting.
Actually, it's
as you move around,
It's a little itchy. Let's this is going to be the podcast that nobody listens to.
We'll both slowly fall asleep ourselves.
If this keeps up. So I'll tell you what. Let's start talking about the fun stuff that's happening in Windows.
Actually, okay, but before we get to the list, I wanted to mention one thing that is relevant, I think, to the podcast, which is that one of the trends we've talked about a lot on this podcast is how applications are moving from the computer to the web, and how computing in general is going into cloud computing and so forth. And it's funny because the way I've always thought of this is that younger people especially will go through school and be used to that form of computing. And when they come out into the workforce, they'll expect it in their professional careers going forward as well. And I look at my own kids and I see them on the computer, and a lot of what they do are play games online, go to YouTube, their email is on the web and all that. And that's what they do. But it's been interesting to me lately. This very week, two things happened, both with my parents and with my wife's parents, that made me realize that this is actually far more universal than that, and that it affects the older generation as well. Yeah. So the first one was that my wife's parents have come up from Florida to visit for the holidays. They were here visiting last night. They were going to stay with us originally, but now they're staying at a friend's house. And as they were leaving last night, my wife's dad left his laptop, and he said, he said, I could leave this here, right? And I said, yeah, but why wouldn't you want to bring it home though? And he said, well, we don't have internet access back at the place. So he says, there's no reason to bother even bringing it, and I thought that was really interesting because for this guy, the computer was just an outlet to get online. And if he couldn't get online, he had no reason to even have it with him, And the other was my mother.
That is a complete and utter shift.
Yeah, really interesting, right? Yeah. And this is, again, older generation than me.
Isn't that interesting? But I think they're right.
Yeah.
I've said this for a while. A computer without a connection to the internet is just a glorified calculator. It's not.
Right. And one of the things I've written this in the past, and I honestly do feel this way. I know for a fact for myself that before the internet came along, for years and years, decades even, I spent hour after hour after hour on the computer. I remember sitting up when I was first married. After my wife would go to sleep, I'd be up on the computer, and I cannot for the life of me even imagine what I was doing, on these computers.
Yeah. Playing games.
Imagine a lot of it was game playing.
Entering in recipes, checking.
Programming,
I think you see, for instance, the death of Microsoft Money and the imminent death of Quicken as a symptom of this, because they were something you would do so that you could use your computer before we were able to get on the internet.
The justification for computers in the beginning was things like spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Well, get it into the workplace, the valuable tool. That stuff's all available online if you want it. The other one was my mother, though, and this one is in many ways more interesting because Stephanie's dad is computer literate, has been for years, has had computers for a long time. My mother has never owned a computer herself, has never used a computer, and only very recently announced to me that she wanted to understand this thing and learn about it and use it, and would I help her buy a computer and help her get set up and all that stuff. So I helped her get a computer recently. I went over her house today to set up their wireless network. She had never taken the computer out of the box, which blew my mind. She bought it a week and a half ago. Got her online, got the thing set up. But all she wanted to do was what she really wanted, and what she had understood, what she understands computing to be, is access to this online wealth of information.
Right. Email,
news,
surfing.
Information.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all she wants. Her life on the computer is going to be the browser, full screen, and it's going to be reading local news online, and email and that kind of stuff. And that's what computing is for her too. Amazing,
I think that's an important recognition, thing to recognize, because when people talk about cloud computing, people like Dvorak, people like me who've been around for a long time think, thin clients, mainframe computing. What we really fail to recognize is it's not cloud computing. It's all of the stuff people want to do on the computer is on the internet.
One of the things, one of the things my parents enjoy when they come over to my house is that on my TV out in the den, we can pull up a photo slideshow of whatever, vacations or kids and stuff they want to see.
Which wouldn't
there's music playing.
It wouldn't be possible. I mean, you could bring a DVD.
Yeah.
But really,
what's
much
interesting
easier
is,
if you have Flickr or Picasso.
Yeah. We're on my mother's computer, and my dad's, was asking whether it would be possible to do this kind of thing on this. And I said, Dad, I can give you an HDMI cable. You can put this on your TV. I connected to Lala. I played music off of my collection. Got a photo slideshow going, completely replicating this thing that they see in my house and all accessing the stuff online. It's amazing what's possible. And I know this is semi-obvious to the people who are listening to this, but I think what we fail to remember sometimes is that for the world at large, and especially for the people, who are our parents and that generation, this stuff is just there for it's there for everybody. It doesn't have. I myself have thought of this as a younger person's thing. When people come to me and argue against cloud computing, oh, you don't understand. I'll always need a copy of this on my own computer. And to me, those people seem old-fashioned and maybe even old. But the truth is, this is a non-generational in many ways. I think there are people of all generations that will be able to and want to access computing this way and think of this as this is computing to them.
Mm-hmm. There's no distinction.
Yeah.
And that's a big shift from us old-timers who started with typing in programs from magazines in BASIC.
Which I absolutely did, yeah.
And entering in our checkbook. And all of those really, now that we look back on it, make work things to justify having a computer. You don't need to do that anymore, and that's when it becomes a universal tool. It's really about communication. It's I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I guess some would say, well, that's an obvious observation, but it really is a recontextualizing of what we use a computer for. Increasingly, computing means the internet. Period.
Yeah, I think so. I think
that's absolutely a perfect insight into what is changed. And you know what it also means is it's more accessible to normal people. It was for geeks only when you had to type in a basic listing. It wasn't for normal people would be willing to do that.
I used to type in things that weren't even basic listings. Remember, Compute Magazine and those magazines would have some sort of weird.
Oh yeah, they do the binary
interim language. I don't know what it was, but it was
bytecode.
Yeah, very strange. Those were the days.
Well,
let me tell you,
it was a different crowd that did it, and I think that I don't want to be too sexist here, but I think that computing didn't really become appealing to normal people, and especially to women, until it was more about communication than about solitary pursuits.
Oh no, we might have talked about this in a podcast years ago, but I remember having this epiphany with the Spot Watch, which in many ways is a ridiculous bit of technology, but. It was aimed at those people who were normal. You're at a sporting event,
right?
And you're watching your team play some other team, but you want to know what's going on in the league. And it was sort of before smartphones really took off. And, here was this watch that could blast sports scores to you from around the league. That's actually kind of valuable, but it's valuable to non-geeks, right? I mean, by the very nature of this, this scenario, we're talking about someone who is a sports fan. Someone who growing up might have not wanted to align himself with these people who use computers and all that. But
by the way, Dr. Mom says, who is obviously a woman, says, I've been involved in computers since the Apple II Plus. We XX chromosome types have been involved with computers for a long, long time. Absolutely, sure. Dr. Mom. But remember, you were in a minority back then. And,
absolutely.
And now it's universal. And it's not, and it isn't just women. It's normal people is what we're saying.
Hey, back in the
you're not normal, Dr. Mom.
No, my wife, who is an incredibly intelligent person, knows next to nothing about computers and cares to know as little as possible.
Yeah, there's
about
always
computers.
the Ada Lovelaces and the Grace Hoppers of the world, but they were in the vast minority.
Sure.
So I don't mean to be sexist in any way, but I just think that
I don't even think of it like that. I would just it's not so much a man versus woman. It's geek versus the rest of the world. The computers become interesting. The smartphones become interesting.
Yep.
When everyone can use them, and it's valuable to people, to everyone in general.
Right.
And I think one of the great ironies, in many ways, of the computer revolution or the internet revolution, is that this technology was made by some of the more insular and anti-social people on the planet, and they've created this thing that is used for nothing more than bringing people together.
Well, congratulations, world. We give you our technology.
The geeks have inherited the earth, and they've given it back to you.
But is there a role now? This is an interesting question. Is there still a role for the traditional geek? Yeah. I mean, so I guess somebody has to write the software.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, we
support the software.
We'll perhaps never be mainstream, but we'll always be there watching you.
Well, it's just like an automobile. Automobiles weren't very interesting when you as an individual had to know everything about that vehicle and how to fix it and how to get it out of every single jam. There were still auto mechanics. And even as cars become more
that's a great point.
Complicated.
That doesn't go away. I sometimes bring up this analogy. In the earliest days of automobiles, in the teens, when you bought an automobile, it came with a mechanic who was the driver was a mechanic. It didn't operate long enough for you to do it yourself.
Couldn't be used by normal. Right. And that was the Commodore 64.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, for anyone to actually use a computer like that, one of those early 8-bit, home computers, you had to really be dedicated to the task. I think normal people would lose interest very quickly.
Right.
In that stuff. Normal people.
We are normal.
As I call them. The others.
Let's move on to. Shall we get to our topics? I think that's. I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's absolutely a great point as we come to the end of this decade, which is really the decade that transformation happened from 2000 to 2009. To kind of say that, to look back and say, that's what we saw happen. Is the internet went mainstream, and it
My
changed
mother just
everything.
got a computer. Yeah, I don't think you understand how profound this is.
Yeah.
She doesn't even like to leave the house. I don't. Yeah, it's incredible. Of course, she's going to be calling me every 15 minutes, which I'm not that excited about. But
Mom's had a computer for a long time. Mom watches this. Mom's watching right now.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
We're recording on Christmas Eve for a Christmas release, and
I don't like that Paul boy.
She loves you. She was on Twit. I don't know if you heard.
Yeah. No.
I called her out of the blue on Twit a couple of weeks ago because we were talking about Facebook privacy, and I wanted to know what a normal person knew about privacy on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And it was unintentionally hysterical. It was great. And I think that there's still a little bit of that geeks laughing at normal people, but that's not going to last long. That's not going to last long.
Sure.
Moving on to PC gaming. This is another time. I think this is kind of nice as we come to the end of the decade that we start looking back and seeing what's really happening, kind of go to the 30,000-foot level and say, what has gone on? And this is a hot
I will
topic.
tell you, it's funny is on that topic. I'm not a big fan of top 10 lists, but I am someone who is into retrospectives, and I could see myself devolving very quickly into a computer antique guy. Like I refuse to use anything newer than CPM.
Whenever Steve Gibson, Jerry Purnell, John C. Dvorak, and I gather, that's what happens.
Yes. No, I listen, I will be right there with you. We'll be sitting on the porch in a bunch of rockers, and we'll be making fun of the new kids.
The last great DOS was 3.3.
Yes. You're full of crap, Leo.
Remember, terminate, stay resident.
Kick that. Yes, this is. My heart is there. There's no doubt about it. I'm heading that direction.
The good news is good because that's basically what Twit is going to turn into.
It's good. Okay,
it's going to be the back porch. We're going to have a Cracker Barrel, a hot stove, and it's going to be us old guys and gals going, yeah.
And instead of one of those barrels with a checkerboard on top, it can be an old Pac-Man machine.
Yes, that's what I need right here. Come to think of it, that's it. We have a table sitting in front of me.
Yeah,
that should be a Pac-Man table.
Yeah. It'll be the whole episode.
And when you come to the cottage, you'll get some quarters. And
someone will pipe in. I'll just nip this one in the bud and say, if you just got a Surface table, I'm sure we could make Pac-Man happen on the Surface table.
But do we want to?
No, too new.
Too new.
Yeah.
Too touch. No.
It's the Surface table, or as I call it, this year's smartwatch.
Did Surface kind of catch on?
Not that I know of.
It's probably too pricey. But a lot of that technology is in Windows 7 Touch, right?
Yes.
So in a way it did. I mean, even some of the programs.
Sure.
It migrated.
That's like saying the Xerox Star kind of took off, too, if you include the Mac and Windows.
Right. It's exactly what that is.
It's the logical successors.
But, do you think I could get... It's not kind of the point where I could get a good deal on a Surface yet, because I would love... You know what? That's exactly what I should have here with a Surface.
No, you need a couple of... casinos in Las Vegas to go to business or something like that.
Well, when the nerds descend on CES in 2 weeks, I think maybe we'll do our bit.
Just put your name on it on the bottom.
When you guys get blown up, can I have
auction, that? Yes, call me. I'll drive it away.
I'd like that. It's funny. The last PC game I played was BioShock, which is a year now, I think, year and a half. I got it on all 3 platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Or 3 or 2. I know I had an Xbox and PC. Was there a PS3 version? I don't remember. I played it on the Xbox for a while, and I ended up playing it on the PC because the graphics were better, because I had a high-end PC with Crossfire and everything.
Yep.
I haven't played one since.
There's a lot. I haven't played a new PC game on the PC in years, really. I mean...
Call of Duty, you never played on the PC?
Only retroactively. The original Call of Duty, of course, was PC only, so I did play that. But that game came out, I want to say, in 2003. It was a long time ago.
Right.
I bought the game Crisis because it was PC only, and really did not like it at all.
No, it's not. That's 2 years old, by the way, now.
Yeah, and that might be the one game, the one PC game that's occurred for me.
Far Cry and Crisis looked so good on a PC.
Oh, Far Cry was a great game. In fact, I've completed that game at least 2 or 3 times.
You had to play that one on a PC just because...
That was pre-console, or pre-Xbox 360, which is where I draw the line. But I wrote an article this week about what I see as the death of PC gaming, purposely leaving out a lot of it. And I kind of want to talk about some of the other stuff on the podcast, because for me, gaming is the Xbox 360. And I remember when the console first came out, one of the bits of advice I had at the time was that if you're a Mac guy, getting an Xbox 360 is a no-brainer, because there are no good games on the Mac, and this is the way it is. But I sort of look at it now, years down the road, that the way things have gone, first of all, from a sheer revenue perspective, this is back from July timeframe, but the numbers were that 90% of the revenues in the video game industry come from consoles, and only 10% come from the PC. It is that bad. I mean, that's how far off it is. Now, the people who game on PCs are religious about it, and I knew writing this article I was going to hear from them, and I did. And I kind of asked for it at the end. What I didn't want to hear feedback on was the sort of thing like, look, you don't understand. I can constantly upgrade my PC, and thus the games can always look better or run faster, yada, yada, yada. And yeah, okay. The people who do stuff like that represent a tiny minority, and they're always going to do that, and they should always be allowed to do that. And there's no defense against it. I can't argue against it. That's fine. If you are that person, keep doing what you're doing. It's fine.
Yeah, but we're not saying stop.
Yeah, no. But I think I think it's an interesting trend, and it's hard to know what caused it exactly. It wasn't just the consoles. I think when you look at the PC industry, more laptops are being sold than desktops today. I have to think that kind of factors into it a little bit because, a good gaming experience is your HD TV with an awesome sound system. Maybe you're sitting on the couch with a controller and you're going to town, and it's a lot of fun. A laptop screen with a trackpad, this is not a good gaming system. I think the rise in smartphones and all those casual games, especially on the iPhone and now on the Google Android phones, are taking FaceTime away from that kind of gaming. I just asked my son. It was funny. I was preparing for the show, and I called my son in because he goes upstairs, and for some reason he goes on my wife's computer. And I said, Mark, when you go upstairs and you play games on the web, and this is a kid who is better than I am at Call of Duty on the Xbox 360. So he plays very high-end games, is very good at it, enjoys it very much, and yet he still goes up on the web, on a Mac, by the way, and plays games online. So I said, where are you going? Expecting he would say something like nickjr.com or something, and I was really confused about what he was doing. And what he's doing is he's going to sites that I had never heard of, like addictinggames.com or ninjakiwi.com.
Yeah, I've heard
And he
of this.
plays these games on the web.
Right.
Right?
They're basically Flash games, right?
I think so, yeah. There are games on Facebook that are incredibly addictive to people.
Farmville.
Right. I don't
get me
play
started.
It, so.
I had to actually go to a group for that.
PC gaming. Oh, you're okay. You went to like a support group?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Farmville Anonymous. Please don't.
Is it on Facebook?
Yeah. Please don't. I'm sorry, but it's a very sore spot.
Is it really that addictive?
I almost lost my family.
Your family?
Yeah. They said, Daddy, don't bother me. I'm harvesting artichokes. Daddy, it's dinner time. Don't bother me. I've got to sweep the leaves out of my virtual farm. Daddy, are you ever going to go to bed? No.
No, but you are. Get out of here.
Farmville is it's very addictive. Okay. Yeah.
But there is stuff like that. I know. I mean, I don't.
Yeah. Don't start because
I've never played any Facebook game, but
Zynga is the company that does these. Oh, it's a whole thing. Yeah.
So there's this whole between it's not just the Xbox 360 on the console side, right? There's the the Wii, which is big, I think, with adults, and the PlayStation 3, of course. Dedicated portable gaming systems, right? Like the Nintendo DS, whatever.
Which are great.
There are all these things pulling people, I think, in different directions.
And the iPhone. Right? Let's face it. I think there's probably more gaming going on the iPhone than anywhere else.
Right. So I think these things all contribute, right, to the downturn on the PC side. And it's a tough.
We're pissing off the PC gamers already. Elf Guy says 90% console. LOL, you guys should just stop talking about games. Seriously, NPD reports do not count digital purchases. Everyone knows that.
No. Okay.
Steam, D2D. What about them, huh? What about them, huh?
Yeah, well, what about them? Exactly.
It's true, though. Steam is really where I get, if I'm PC gaming.
I was going to say, so one of the things I did do was I looked at the availability of online services for the PC that could match in some ways what's available on the Xbox 360. And actually, Steam is the one that comes the closest. It doesn't duplicate what's available on Xbox 360 at all. In fact, it doesn't even really come close, but it does come the closest,
right,
in the sense that you can do game-to-game chat with your friends and so forth, assuming they're on Steam. I mean, one of the nice things about the Xbox 360 is that when you're on Xbox Live, you are on Xbox Live. People can contact you whether you're using the console to watch a TV show or a downloaded movie or playing a game. It doesn't matter what game you're in or whatever. It's a nice system. It's a nice enclosed system that works, pretty much really well.
What do you think that Steam sales would make an impact on those NPD numbers, though, if they're not counting them?
Yeah, to the tune of, at most, raising the revenue share of the PC gaming industry to 15% of the total.
You know what it'll be telling is when people stop developing games for the PC.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, you're already seeing things like companies can't afford to ignore the iPhone and the iPod Touch. Right. It's too big of a market.
Right.
You see that across the board. Nobody is ignoring the consoles, obviously. But I think that the PC gaming market is becoming in many ways the backwater, and I think that the consoles, the Xbox 360 primarily for the hardcore type games, is the tier one. That's the one they're going to spend the most time on.
I think that's pretty clear. Although the experience on the console is not as rich as it is on the PC. The controls are more limited,
but consistent. And by the way, I as a PC gamer, age-old PC gamer, to the tune of when I bought my first PC, as I was buying my first PC, because it was something I had to do over time because I couldn't afford a PC. I was actually downloading and saving to floppy games for that PC, right, from companies like the Jill the Jungle type games that they had back in the early 1990s.
Yeah, Commander Keen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the Lost Planet.
Knowing at the time that PC gaming wasn't as rich as what was available at the time on the Amiga, which is what I was using. And of course, that got much better over time. And the 3D stuff happened with id Software and Castle Wolfenstein and Doom and so on. I played all those games, every single one of them, and moved from keyboard only to mouse and keyboard, and looked with trepidation at this Xbox 360 controller, thinking there is no way that a shooter is going to be as good on the console. But now looking back at it years later, I could never go back and just play keyboard mouse in a shooter game. It just would feel weird, as precise as it may be. Game makers have figured out how to make these things work on the console and work well. And I just think the overall experience is such that I can't personally do it.
Ken Shepardson raises the point that I always thought, which is the real problem with PC gaming is you install it and then you got to upgrade your drivers. You got all sorts of issues that come up. Now, I have to raise another point. There is a form of PC gaming that is, I think, probably still pretty robust. That's things like World of Warcraft. It's massive
multiplayer online game. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And again, I want to stress,
how many millions of people play WoW? I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not suggesting it's just going to disappear. There's always going to be that thing. There'll be a certain audience that's doing this kind of thing. I just think that 10 years ago, it was probably 90%.
Oh yeah, it's
today
flipped.
It's 10%. And the reason it's flipped is multi-tiered. There's all this different stuff. It's not because of the Xbox 360. It's a confluence of things. The web, dedicated handheld games, smartphones. It goes on and on. There's a lot of stuff. That's all. That's sort of what I'm saying. That people have a certain amount of time. The amount of time and effort it takes to keep a PC up to date and acceptable for gaming and all that going downhill. It's far more convenient to have a PC that is a laptop that you can sit on the couch and TV's on and you're doing something on the laptop, rather than have a dedicated room in the house with a nice big TV screen. Desktop PC and all that stuff. I just think that that's kind of going away as a general rule. That's all.
No, I think that's the writings on the wall.
Yeah.
Although PC gamers hate it when you say stuff.
I know,
this.
No, I know, and I know, and I
feel insulted.
As right. One of the things that's odd in my career is that sometimes I'll write something and then be shocked at the feedback. I honestly didn't expect to get whatever the feedback was. In this case, I knew as I wrote this that, in fact, I cut it short. A lot of the stuff that we're discussing here on the podcast, things about the side issues related to reasons why PC gaming isn't as big, the handheld games, other consoles, the web stuff, Facebook, and so forth. Did not write this into the article because I just didn't want to, I could go on and on and on, and I didn't want it to seem like a diatribe. It's just that, PC gaming is falling off a cliff. It just is. And it will always be there, but I knew that these people, there are certain sacred cows in our industry. You can't belittle Linux without hearing from people. It's just the way it works. And absolutely, PC gaming is like this. And
sacred cow is a good way to put it. That's exactly right. Yeah.
No, it's just the way it is.
But you've never been one to shrink from
no, I don't
barbecuing a sacred cow or two.
No, but I'm not. I don't do it cheaply. I mean, I'm not trying to.
You're not trying to hurt anybody, but just as observation.
Not surprisingly, no. So there are services like Steam and Direct to Drive, Good Old Games, which are one of the things we recommended this year. Not surprisingly, Good Old Games is old games, right? And as an old timer, I look at some of the stuff that's on there, some of the old games, Quake 3 Arena, which is still a fantastic multiplayer game, pure shooter, or Unreal Tournament 2004, whatever. Half-Life 2. As one of the best single-player games ever created. Why it's not a movie, I have no idea. These are things I played on the PC.
Right.
It's just the way it is. They're great. They're great. But when Call of Duty comes out, the new version of Call of Duty, I played on the Xbox 360. I like the ability to kind of go in and out. You get on the thing, you play it on the best screen in your house. It's kind of the way it should be. And I get all the stuff that's possible on the PC. But when you talk about playing it on the HD TV versus playing it on my computer monitor, yeah.
Do you think it's going to migrate? I guess the big screen is part of this. I mean, when you have an HD TV in the house and you can hook up an Xbox or PS3
anyone can do it, and anyone can afford it.
Anybody can do it.
Xbox 360 is what, $300, $60 for a game, and you're on the TV you already have. You're done.
Yeah.
A good gaming PC is still is expensive.
And it's easy. And it looks great.
Yeah.
And wireless controllers.
Sure.
And I guess,
which is another thing, right? So aside from the fact that I didn't want to go to controller, the Xbox 360 comes with wireless controllers. Right. I always thought that was never going to work because my experience with wireless controllers previous to that was horrible.
Right.
That's been fine.
Oh, yeah. It's been more than fine because it's the sit-back experience and it's a much more immersive.
Yeah, I thought it would be the subject of lag and, nothing. No problem.
I think it probably was at first, but...
I don't know.
Hey, we're going to talk in a little bit bad news. Well, maybe not. I'd like to get your take on this. From Microsoft, from in the Word issue. But before we do that, I do want to mention our friends at Ford, the makers of Ford Sync. They're going to be sponsoring our trip to CES. In fact, we're driving down. I'm really excited in a Lincoln MKS with Ford Sync installed, and we'll give you a little rides if you can catch up with me at in Vegas. Say, I want to ride in the Twitmobile in the Lincoln MKS because I would love to show you how this works. And that's not just you, Paul. Everybody. You get in the car. You turn it on. I always, I use the Bluetooth because it supports A2DP, which is the Bluetooth profile, so that you can stream audio from your Bluetooth compatible phone. So I play music and books off my iPhone. But I also have this is actually probably where the Zune's going to end up. Always plugged in because it's got a USB port, and that's got my music library on it. And the beauty of it is Zune, iPod, or any MP3 device with a USB port, the sync indexes it, and you can call for songs by name, by genre, by artist. You can say, play, I'm in the mood for U2. I don't care what you play. Just you press the button on the steering wheel. You say, play artist U2. U2 starts playing. Play next, play previous, play similar. It's just an amazing system. Of course, you make phone calls with it. It sucks your address book in, so you do it by name. I can say, call Paul Thurrott. I could say, play Windows Weekly. It has GPS built into it. Even if you don't have the GPS screen, the GPS unit, you, of course, can buy a higher-end unit with a screen, but you don't need that. If you've got sync, you've got turn-by-turn directions, and smart ones, too. They use the Sirius travel link to get traffic information, so it will reroute you. You can ask for traffic information. You can also ask, and this is free for 3 years. There's no subscription fee for the first 3 years, and then I think it's like $7.95 a month. You can ask for ski conditions, weather reports, traffic conditions, sports scores, and I think at CES they've got some more big announcements. It's really a neat system, and I want you to take a look at it. You can go online to syncmyridepodcast.com and find out more. That'll take you to the Sync My Ride site, and that's the site that Sync owners use to update their system and to get new software, to get vehicle reports, the vehicle health reports, syncmyride.com. But start at syncmyridepodcast.com. And then you can also, of course, go to your local Ford, Lincoln, or Mercury dealer, say, I want to test drive Sync. And make sure if you're getting a new Ford, Lincoln, or Mercury, you get it with sync. You can thank me later. You'll be glad. Thanks to Ford for their support all this quarter and going into 2010, and we're really glad we're taking Ford to CES. SyncMyRidePodcast.com. Is this bad news? The appeal. I actually was kind of stunned. Maybe it's not bad news. Remember that a small company. I don't think a patent troll. I think they actually had the patent to this XML code. I4I. They're from Toronto, I think. Said, hey, that code in Office 2003 and Office 2007, that's ours. They went to the famous East Texas court where the judges,
yes.
They got a hanging judge. Judge
Buford T. Justice.
Yeah, Buford T. Justice said, well, Microsoft, I don't think you can sell that product anymore. Microsoft got a stay. They went to an appeal. The appeals court upheld the decision this week and said, nope.
Yep.
What is it, January 11th? You got to stop. So is this bad news? We were debating this, and I think you're the expert on this. Is this bad news for Microsoft?
No, actually it's not. And what's interesting, I think Microsoft did a little switcheroony on this one, which I think is kind of funny. This is a really minor feature in Word. I don't think I don't think Microsoft stole the code. I think they did the same thing as is described in the patent, right? In other words, they, I guess you would call it intellectual property theft or whatever, as opposed to straight code theft. But one of the functions of this Word XML format is the ability to specify custom XML inside of the document container. It's a feature that nobody uses, literally. So after getting the ruling, the original ruling, which occurred, when was that? Back in August, October?
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago.
A few months back.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, what Microsoft did was they went back and they developed a software patch that would simply remove it from all of the existing copies.
That was
Word.
What we were discussing on Mac Break.
So their big thing was they came out and said, okay, so we're just going to replace all the versions that are out in retail. We'll deliver this hotfix to everyone else. Problem solved.
Yeah.
So the Microsoft has to remove copies of Word from store shelves. Story, while dramatic, is not really what's going to happen. So no big worry there, I guess.
So they don't have to pull it off the shelves. They just force an update. Is that kind of what happens?
No, they are going to pull it off the shelves.
They will. So that's kind of bad. They have to pull back all the manufacturing.
Well, it's bad except that there's there really aren't that many copies of this thing sitting out on shelves, right? It's not it's not something that people buy a lot of retail copies of.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, they are going to replace it, but no worries. The big distribution point for Microsoft Office is PC makers and the volume licensing stuff.
And that's easy to fix. They just send them.
It's a really easy fix. They send them the fix, and this gets into their software distribution share. So no problem.
There is a fine. I mean, it's going to cost them some money. They did say we will take this to the Supreme Court. I'm not sure why, but
sure. I think it's important for any company when they're legally challenged on something like this to fight as much as you can, because as Microsoft has certainly discovered in their own lifetime, things happen.
Right. Yeah. Don't give an inch. And
Microsoft was going to be broken up by the federal government. If I recall.
Right.
And almost singularly because of the intransigence of the judge, the guy who just hated Microsoft so much.
Judge Marilyn Patel, was that?
No, Thomas Penfield Jackson.
Oh, Thomas Penfield Jackson, yeah.
He discussed details of the case with a journalist because he just couldn't stop talking.
Yeah.
Got the attention of the appellate court. They basically just struck down his entire decision, and it's interesting to sort of wonder about what could have happened there, but
it might not have been a bad thing had they broken up Microsoft. I mean, that's the debate.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Dvorak always said Microsoft should do it on their own.
Sure,
they're too big.
They won't. Yeah, they won't.
So, it's just a matter of course. And when you have a lawyer on retainer, when you have 100 lawyers on retainer, why not? They got to have something to do.
Got to keep them busy.
They're sitting around the office. They're like in a special pen.
No, why not? Because you never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Hey guys, we got something for you. It's like throwing meat in the lion's cage.
The $127 million, which is what I think the fee is that they have to pay in damages to I4I, may ultimately be the smallest part of the bill.
Right.
For this case. So you might as well just take it to town and see what happens.
Well, that's just it's just the way the cookie crumbles. So here's a surprising fact. I guess not really if you pay attention, but if you're just looking at press coverage, you might think that the iPhone is the number one dominant
I love the stuff that gets tossed around, and I don't mean to beat up on the Mac, but someone wrote a story about this, which I thought was beautiful. Facts are, facts as we call them, are sort of tossed around as if they were in fact facts. Individuals don't buy Windows, companies do. Individuals buy Mac, and it's like, careful.
Right.
Right. That's not really how it works. The iPhone is the most popular smartphone of 2009, right? That's quite a statement. It's not actually true, but it's funny how you can take statistics and kind of warp them around something, and so this is one you see. I saw this headline so many times I had to go take a look at it. And
so you've actually seen headlines saying the iPhone, the most popular smartphone of 2009.
Yeah, because here we are at the end of the year, and like I said, top 10 lists are coming out, and people are doing their retrospective. I guess you could
say popular among me and my friends.
It is absolutely.
It's not the best-selling phone.
That's a headline that I could write.
Right.
It is popular among the people I know. But actually, it's outsold by a number of phones, even in the United States, where it is the most popular. Outside of the United States, I don't think it's even close, actually, in any country. But yeah, that's the world we live in. So I'm not even sure. This is just one of my professional pet peeves. The sort of lack of digging that people do. That they see something like, oh yeah, people like the iPhone. Let's write about the iPhone.
So what is the most popular smartphone?
It's almost certainly in this country that would be the BlackBerry.
Yeah.
There apparently LG phones even outsell the iPhone, but one of the things that Apple has going against it, and I think it really speaks to the popularity of the iPhone, that this isn't too much of a handicap, is that they're the only major platform that isn't sold by more than one carrier in the United States. You can buy a RIM BlackBerry device from every carrier.
That holds them back. A lot of people don't want to go to AT&T.
Right. So imagine how much popular the iPhone would be if it was available on other wireless carriers. And I think that's the real takeaway here is, despite the handicap that the iPhone does have, AT&T, it's still incredibly popular. And I think as you look forward in the consumer space, especially, and again in the United States especially, the iPhone is absolutely the one to beat. But things are starting to change. I think that the Google Android is going to be a big deal. And, and who knows, BlackBerry, I think, could also capture a big part of the consumer market if they play their cards right. I haven't seen any of that yet. I don't have any evidence of that, but certainly that could happen.
Right,
so
right.
I think it's a little early to hand the crown over, but certainly it is one of the important platforms.
It's the phone to beat, is no question about it, but I am very excited about Android.
Yeah.
I think
it is the only one I've seen where you see how it could work, right? That they have all the pieces in place, and it's something that's not true of any of the other phones.
Yeah, and software's getting better and better and better on it, and they've got the hardware down, and
it just feels a little. It lacks a certain elegance that is present on the iPhone.
Absolutely.
A sort of fit and finish kind of thing. I'm not sure what to call it.
It's close though. It's about as close. I mean, if I still use the iPhone. If I had to though.
Yep.
Let's say AT&T didn't work, or I would absolutely be very comfortable with the Droid. I think the Droid is spectacular.
A lot of it is the zooming with plus and minus is a little.
Yeah, you need pinch, and you know what? There's no reason the hardware can't do pinch. I'm a little.
About it.
It must be a patent issue. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, they'll get it.
Software updates are out of the control of the Droid marketplace, so I get software updates much more frequently than I do on the Apple. That's nice. A pro and a con, but I like to have the latest versions, and their features are added all the time.
Because it's a choice. That's something you could do. I think the App Store stuff is going to be a wash by this time next year. I think it will be really interesting to compare the quality applications that are available from the different app stores, and I have a feeling by this time next year that Android and Apple will actually be kind of neck and neck. And what's interesting about that, of course, is how much less time Android has been on the market. And for them to be able to do that is pretty incredible.
Now, we haven't, to be honest, haven't seen sales statistics for Android, and I've seen some people speculate that it's actually quite low. For the Droid, I mean, it's quite low.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that now you're saying,
but it's not just the Droid you have to worry about, right? Even on Verizon, there are two different Droid phones.
That's right.
This is a platform that is available from every carrier now.
And they're even making netbooks. They're making all sorts of stuff. We talked on This Week in Computer Hardware yesterday about a
Google netbook.
Well, no, we couldn't figure out if it was real or not, but it's a beautiful tablet from a company we'd never heard of that runs Android. That was quite a spectacular achievement. So, I mean, I think that that's not...
Google's scary because they can give stuff away, right? You know,
not more than that. Less than free. That's that less than free model. They could pay people to use it. They could put it in a car computer and pay people advertising.
Sure.
Share of advertising revenue. It means that it's not only free, it pays you.
Yeah, I mean, for all the talk that we've had, and we've done this, you know, Google versus Microsoft, you know, the other important market you have to think about is the smartphone area, and that's really kind of Google versus Apple.
Right.
And I think that aspect of this gets downplayed a little bit, but it will be interesting to see how Apple responds to Google this coming year as well.
We also talked on This Week in Computer Hardware about this new Atom platform, which is basic. It's not for you. It's not for the end user. No, it's not for the end user because it's not faster in any way.
Yeah.
It's essentially smaller and uses less energy. Better battery life.
Not faster from a clock speed perspective, but actually, this is sort of Intel's response to Enforce in a way, right? And it's smaller, you know. But aside from the size reduction stuff, which is important, right? That can result in better battery life performance, which is maybe more important than anything else for these kind of devices. You know, it's capable of streaming HD video. It's not 1080p, I guess, in the case of the Intel stuff. But this is the next generation Atom, right? Dual core chips are in there. That specifically a chipset designed for a desktop computer, right? And when we talk about, you know, PCs going away from these gaming PCs, I mean, here's a typical example. When you can buy a $200, $300, $400 computer, attach it to a nice big screen, keyboard, mouse, your computing experience is as it always was, right? You can browse the web, you can do Word and Excel and all that stuff, and it all works fine. You can't really play advanced video games on a system like that necessarily.
Right.
You can do all the HD video, you can do music and photos and all that stuff. So it's sort of everything but, you know, high-end gaming essentially, or good enough computing. You know, I don't know what you want to call that, but I think that is good enough for most people when you think about it. I mean, this is another contributor.
Here's the thought that I thought was quite good that Ryan threw in, and I think that this is, you know, people are always asking me, should I get a netbook? Right. And, you know, generally what I say, not as your first computer, but if you know, you want a light, portable, good battery life, cheap computer you can carry around, for those times when you just want to get email and maybe use you know, Google Docs or something like that, it's fine. But his point, which I thought was very well taken, is, but don't expect it to have any life in it. It's not going to handle the next generation of anything.
You know, but what's the next generation of anything? It's all web stuff.
He's saying it's a disposable computer. It's not a computer.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. Yeah. But you know, one of the articles I wrote for the print magazine was about netbooks in a business situation, and the way I looked at it was netbooks are not acceptable for businesses because they're not built to the high quality standards. They're not going to have the support. They're not going to last. But, you know, most netbooks are used around the house. It's not a problem. In fact, I will say in my own experience, I have a netbook that I now use to sync all my digital media stuff to devices and so forth, and it works fine for that. When I hop out on the couch, we're going to watch TV or whatever, and I would just want to keep the thing open for email or whatever, I find myself actually using this more than my regular notebook computer. And there is something kind of cool about the form factor and the smallness of it.
Which one do you like the best?
Well, the one that I have is the Toshiba.
Oh, the Toshiba. Okay.
205. Yeah. And actually, I have my.
You know, as part of this discussion, I'll show you yours if you show me mine. Or no, I can think it's the other one. Oh, it's a Bing. Bada Bing. So look how big yours is compared to mine. This is the original netbook. This is the Asus EPC 701.
I had one of those.
Yeah.
But this computer, though, I can actually use. Unlike that one, my hands
you
are
could not use. There's no way to use this.
That thing has a teeny SSD drive if it's the one I remember. You know, 8 gigs maybe or 4 gigs.
Right. But the basic, I have to say the basic form factor hasn't changed much. Just bigger screen, bigger keyboard. Same processor.
You want a slightly bigger screen. You want as close to a full-size keyboard as you can get.
Right.
If you can, it seems like a lot of them have 8-9 hours of battery life now, which is classic. It's always good to have that.
Gotta have that.
Get it. Yeah, and I think that the addition of Enforce or this.
You mean Ion? You mean Ion?
Yeah. What did I call it? Enforce. Yeah, the
Ion.
NVIDIA Ion. Sorry. Makes a big difference from a performance standpoint. I was really surprised, by the way.
I'm waiting till CES. I want to see what they do with Ion.
Yeah.
Because there's only one Ion out there right now. That's the 311, the HP 311.
Yeah, so the chip itself, the clock speed is not improved, which is amazing and surprising. And it's funny to me that Intel, this company that spent a decade pushing clock speed, has suddenly found great success on the very low end of the market.
Unwillingly dragged to it. This is not the platform they would like to be selling. It's a low-margin platform. It undercuts their high-margin platform. Mm-hmm. They don't want to be selling. Yeah, but it's what people are buying. They don't want to be selling netbooks. How much of it is the economy, and how much is it this is really what people want?
Oh, I think it's a little bit of both, actually. That first netbook that you just pulled up, that was pretty popular. People are intrigued by these things, I think, despite the economy. And by the way, if the economy is going gangbusters, I think people still are going to want one of these as a second computer. It's a neat little thing.
When touch tablets come out in wide variety, that they will replace the netbook?
They never have. I don't know. That was one of my other, pet peeve headlines I saw this week was, will 2010 be the year of the tablet? It's like, I don't know. 2002 wasn't.
I'll never forget, and I think I've mentioned it before, the Comdex, I think it was. Maybe it was a CES where Microsoft landed a house in the parking lot, like in The Wizard of Oz. Yep. And the house had this, Stepford wife family in there, each with their own tablet. Dad sitting in front of the TV, watching. Mom in the kitchen. These are real humans. And then you go in and look at them like in a zoo. And this is Microsoft really getting behind its tablet.
And it really kind of went nowhere, right?
This was the non-keyboard. Yeah, this was the non-keyboard.
But again, tablets are one of those things just like video games. There is a small crowd of people that uses these things, and they turn into evangelists for the technology.
They do. I remember sitting next to a guy who had a tablet who said, no, I use this for business. It's great for PowerPoint. Look, I can do my... And he sold me. I went out and bought one. Never used it.
I was in a meeting. I don't remember who this was with, but it was with Microsoft, but I don't remember the team. But we were sitting around a table, and someone was drawing stuff up on a whiteboard, and some guy says, this is why I have my tablet PC, because every once in a while someone draws something on a whiteboard and I can duplicate it on the on the tablet. And I said, that's fascinating. And I pulled out my digital camera and took a picture of the whiteboard. I'm not an artist, so I'm not going to try to duplicate the painting that this guy just made, but I'll just take a picture of it.
Burn.
Oh no, I want to justify the $2,000 I spend on this thing. Like twice a year, I get to whip out the tablet and draw on it with a pen. And it's like,
it's pretty crazy. And now anybody with a camera phone, in fact, there's even software like Evernote that you take a picture of it, it transcribes it, you're done.
Yeah. Anyway,
there's always somebody.
I have my own selfish reasons to hope that Apple, for example, is coming out with a tablet device next year. I hope it's smaller rather than larger. Because all I really want from such a device is some kind of portable media player, and I know that that's not really what people are looking for. So
no, I think that's one. I think one thing that a book reader is another thing. Browsing,
one of those. Yeah.
But if you combine all this in one device,
possibly.
I have that Nokia N900. I really had high hopes for that because it's got an 800 by 480 screen. It's a big screen, even though it's a phone.
I've tried some of those Archos devices. The portable media player things. I've always found those to be kind of junky, and
this is well built. Nokia makes good stuff. It's well built, but it's not it quite either.
It's just not there yet.
Not quite there. It's very close. But you really want to pull out the stylus. I would almost be happy
if they would build a thing I could put an iPod Touch into, and then you have a screen in front of it that just amplifies the size of the screen somewhat.
A 10-inch touch.
I would be all over that.
10-inch touch with an OLED screen.
I don't even know if it has to be an OLED screen. I just want a slightly bigger screen. Actually, one of the 10-inch screens on a netbook is ideal. A tablet that size. But again, the thing I'm talking about, this is for me, right? Now, I'm not saying this makes sense. I'm saying this is what I want. I don't actually think this makes sense as a business model. If somebody made one of these things, I think I would buy it and 3 other guys would buy it, and then this company would go out of business.
It'll be very interesting to see. It's an intriguing thing. We shall see. We shall see. Are you ready to... Oh, wait a minute. One more thing, which is... And this is a rumor that we also talked about on Tuesday on MacBreak Weekly that I find a little far-fetched.
I don't know. It's come up too many times now.
It was most recently in the Wall Street Journal that Apple would do a $30 a month subscription TV thing.
Right. That's expensive.
Get all the networks involved. But it would be... The journal said they'd call it something like the best of TV. So it wouldn't be every show. But it'd be
remember when Apple first started offering movies on iTunes or TV shows? In the beginning, you had a very limited selection. Over time, and you look at it now, it has everything almost. I mean, it's crazy. Well, it's pretty good. I mean, it's actually insane. It's crazy how much stuff is available.
Yeah.
I expect that if they do this TV service, it will start out like that. So the diehards will subscribe from day one because people like to open their wallets when Apple announces stuff. But for the real world, when this gets interesting is when they have all the major networks. They have all the major cable networks, and you have some kind of choice. I don't know how this would work exactly, but, I really do feel that there is a wellspring of people who are dying to kill cable and their cable bill.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I'd love to kill my cable bill. Oh.
And I would love that. I have some special requirements for my son because of his hearing handicap. He needs to have closed captioning. Apple has some closed captioning. For this thing to take off in my household, it would have to be closed captioned across the board, which I would love to see. But it would also have to have all the content. It would have to be the stuff that my kids watch and the stuff that my wife and I watch. It's a tall order, no doubt about it.
That's the problem. I think it's a tall order because I think that and this is what we talked about on MacBreak Weekly, that the television companies have seen what Apple did to the music industry. And while Apple was able to sneak that by the music industry, they ain't going to sneak it by the TV guys. They're going to say, no,
they never did a subscription model. And they have, in fact, been working with the TV industry. So there is a history there.
They got Disney and maybe CBS.
Disney. Yeah.
They ain't going to get NBC Universal because that's owned by Comcast.
Sure.
No way Comcast is doing this. No way. We'll see. I think that this is one that's going to be killed by the companies who own the content. Who are going to say,
yeah, it's too much.
We don't see it happening, or they'll give us such crappy content that
if they don't do it, Microsoft couldn't do this effectively. I can't think of anyone who could do this effectively. Well, other than maybe Google with YouTube, right? Google. There are also rumors along those lines. That's
the problem. Is Hulu is too successful for Fox and NBC, and they've seen the light, they've seen the way. And I think that they're going to say, no, we're going to do it ourselves. In fact, CBS has a very, I think a very good website that you can watch this on. And
Sure.
I mean, I guess it's accepted by everybody that IPTV is going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
So the question you have to have, there's two different players when you talk CBS. There's CBS, the network, and there's CBS, the program provider. If you're a program provider, you like the idea of disintermediating the networks and going direct to your customers and selling. You get more money.
But that market is shrinking for you. And as with PC games, there are a lot of choices out there. So you need to be sure you're playing in each of these markets. You can't not be on Hulu if everyone else is, for example. Right. You can't maybe not be on this iTunes thing if they do it, if everyone else is. So I don't know.
I guess it's not. They're not mutually exclusive. So you could, if you felt like you were making enough money, it would be worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. I look at it like a premium cable subscription. There are people who pay a lot of money every month to have HBO or Cinemax or whatever, and they derive some value from this experience. There are no advertisements for the most part.
Comcast is doing this for people who subscribe to Comcast TV and internet.
Yep.
Of which I am one. You can go on Comcast's fan site or Comcast.net and see anything.
Oh, really?
Streaming.
Yeah.
So your computer
you can be on the road or something.
Yeah. Your computer is now. Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting. That's their attempt to own this.
Yeah, I was going to say that's their attempt to be a gateway, which has gotten those companies in trouble. But
is streaming okay? I guess it is okay. I mean, I love Roku. We're down to one Netflix disc a month or whatever at a time because
just so you can have it,
just so I can have Roku and we watch all it. And now, admittedly, I'm settling for crappy movies half the time because not the movies I really want are still only on disc, but it's good enough and it's so easy just to go, oh, what's on? Oh, I'll watch that. We did that last night. We watched a movie. Jennifer said, I want a romantic comedy. I said, well, let me search.
We do actually occasionally go to a video store that's local to our town.
You go to video stores? Wow.
Sometimes.
Aren't you retro?
And well, the reason we would do that is because, occasionally it's us and the kids and it's Friday night and let's go grab a pizza or get something to eat and we'll stop by the video store and we'll come home and watch a movie. It's kind of an old-fashioned way to do it. Wow. But, you can also have the stuff
do you do this in your buggy or... do you like the bicycle built for two?
Yeah. We have a horse, actually. So,
wow.
No, but I would say more often we would actually have food delivered in this case. So you can certainly get pizza delivered or whatever.
Right. Why go out? Why go
on demand is there. We actually use, I would say we rent off of the Apple TV. Not quite as much as on demand, but a little bit less than on demand. And again, actually the issue there is...
because it costs money. Closed caption.
No. I mean, if it's just my wife and
you have some unique needs.
Yeah, renting a movie just for my wife and I. Renting a movie on Apple TV is kind of a no-brainer.
Right. Or Amazon on the Roku.
Yeah,
they have pretty much.
But
I
don't do that much. I mean, it's there, but I find myself. I look at on demand first just because it's easiest. It's right there on cable, and then I go to Apple TV next. Personally. I'd like to see Apple do something. I think they could make it happen, but
okay. Now, that's a different question. Will it happen? I don't know. Would I like to see it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to separate a lot of the stuff we're talking about today. There are certain things I would like to see, and then you sort of look at the business model and think, actually,
I think
as much as I may enjoy this,
I think it's a little tricky.
Apparently one of the only people. So
it's only you.
Yeah.
It's only you. Are you ready for your Audible pick of the week, my friend?
Yes, I am.
Audible.com is the place to go if you're looking for audio entertainment. You listen to a podcast. How about books? Wouldn't you like to expand your reading? I have to admit, my son gave me a wonderful book for Christmas, which I'm really loving, called Wolf Hall. It's paper. I haven't read a paper book in so long, and it's great, but I get sleepy. It's
Sure.
I hanker for the audio version, and that's just what's happened to me. I love audiobooks because there's so much time I'm in the car, I'm at the gym, I'm doing housework that I cannot hold a book, but I want to read. That's how I get my reading done. And Audible is so great. It's a full bookstore online. Go to audible.com/windows. You could sign up for the Gold account. That's a book a month. Now, that's not going to hold you, I know, but get started that way. You do get the first book free, so you can kind of get a sense. And we like to go to Audible and recommend books for you, although you'll see just a huge variety if you go to audible.com. And it's really browsable. Lots of great ideas for stuff to read. I find it very much like a bookstore, with staff suggestions, bestseller lists, and all of that. In fact, in some ways, it's even more browsable. But you've got something. This was recommended by a friend?
Yeah, every time I go to Seattle, I stay with my friend Joe. And Joe's a guy I've known for 15 years maybe, or somewhere around there. He is, aside from you probably, the biggest Audible fan I know. He has several hundred books in Audible format.
Oh, yeah.
And is also, talks about it a lot and recommends it to people and so forth.
I noticed that when people use our Audible listeners, that's one of the first things we talk about is, so what do you listen to lately? What's good?
Exactly. And he was actually, the last time I was out there last month, he was telling me that he has so many audiobooks now that he's having a harder time finding ones that are really good. And I made some recommendations based on some of the stuff we've talked about. And for Christmas, he gave me an Audible gift certificate and recommended this book, which I have downloaded on his recommendation. Haven't listened to yet. In fact, I just finished that Larry Bird book that we were talking about a few weeks back, and am moving on to The Mote in God's Eye by Jerry Pournelle. So I'll be doing this one after that.
Listening to that right now, which I love.
Yeah.
Really enjoying it.
A book I read as growing up, so now I have it in Audible format. But his recommendation was a book by Howie Mandel called "Here's the Deal, Don't Touch Me," and I guess it's a memoir of sorts, and it looks interesting and funny. And
I can't wait. Well, he's famous because he's germophobic.
Yeah,
he's the host of Deal or No Deal, and of course, everybody knows Howie Mandel from his comedy act and years ago. In fact, he was an early computer user.
From the inflatable glove, right? Wasn't that him? He would put it on his head or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That was his shtick. Now he has no hair, so that's easier.
No, he has no hair. It would actually, the glove would work
much better. But I remember what was the name of it? There was a company that did a books CD-ROM games with Little Howie, and he did the voices. Nice. He was really early on in the computer and CD-ROM thing.
I'm always fascinated by people in different industries who were early computer proponents. Guys like Jerry Pournelle or. I'm forgetting the guy's name. It was a big Todd Rundgren, who was a big Mac guy early on.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Douglas Adams. Guys like that, or Neil Stephenson. Whatever. I mean, it's always intriguing to me. There's even a Stephen King book that he writes about writing. I think it's called On Writing.
It is On Writing.
And there isn't much in there about his computer usage, but there is some information about the computers he used over the years and how he switched to computers at some point. And I'm always fascinated by that. Yeah, so I guess Howie Mandel is a guy like that. Someone outside of the computer industry who sort of saw the value or was interested in computers early on.
Well, and also he's OCD, ADHD. I mean, he's really kind of a character. I'd love to know more about him and how he survived, given his issues with adult ADHD and OCD. Because I'm definitely adult ADHD. I'm a little OCD and big time ADHD.
Yeah.
So.
Sure. I'm just obsessive compulsive, but.
I turned off my mic. So this is the book for you, I think, if you're obsessive-compulsive, ADHD, or just like Howie Mandel. Here's the deal. Don't touch me. That could be your free audiobook. Easy to get. Just go to audible.com/windows and give it a try. You're going to love it. Audible.com/windows. We thank them so much for their support, and we wish them and every Audible listener a happy holiday from Audible and Windows Weekly. Well, now it's time for your software. Let's do your tip of the week first.
Okay. Yeah, but my tip and software pick are both kind of holiday related. I apologize for the tip that I didn't have this earlier on, but I actually just found out about this today. There is a browser plugin that works with Internet Explorer, Firefox, and Chrome that when you're shopping online, it provides a small notification window, sort of like that yellow pop-down window you get in IE, the little notification line there.
Yeah.
That will show you if this thing can be had for lower at a different online store somewhere else. It is absolutely awesome. It's called Invisible Hand. I've been using it in Chrome. So I was testing it today, and this thing is fantastic. So if you go to someplace like Amazon.com or whatever, which, by the way, I was surprised to see often had the lowest price for some of the items I was looking at, you pull up an item, and this little yellow window comes down, and it will say, this can be had at, buy.com or whatever for my phone ringing, of course.
Do you have a big hammer you could hit your phone with? Kind of.
I wish I did. Yeah. Anywho, there's no one home to answer it. So it's just going to ring.
Don't worry. I can barely hear it. Hear it.
Sorry. This works really, really well. So I was playing around with it today. Of course, it's the day before Christmas as we record this, and will probably be after Christmas once you hear it. But it's fantastic, and
what a great idea!
Just get it. And the thing that's cool about it is it doesn't appear in your browser anywhere. If you just browse in the web, you don't see it. But when it pops up is when you're shopping, which is when you think about when you would want it. So
right.
I tend to blindly just buy stuff on Amazon.com because.
But that may not be the best.
Because I'm lazy. But sometimes that's not the best. Yeah. So I was intrigued to. I was looking at TVs today and books and some other stuff, and it was really interesting. This little pop-up that comes down. It's a neat little add-on. So
I'm
absolutely
immediately going to see if the TV that I just took delivery of.
As you were talking about the TV, I was thinking, although that's such a specialty item, I can't imagine.
What have I done?
Plus, if you bought it from sort of an
I bought it from Amazon via Amazon through Abe's of Maine, right? So
you should look at that.
Oh man,
I doubt that thing is online.
Can't be too much,
but certainly would be worth looking at.
All right, let's do it. What do you say?
Yeah, you might as well.
Call me crazy.
So you see that little yellow line that was in that window that you just closed?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like when you find an item.
Let's go to Amazon.com. See how much pain I can give myself. I mean,
this item, again, because of the rareness of it, it may not even.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, but hey, if there was a better deal, it would have been handy.
More than once today, the little pop-up actually came up and said, "This is in fact the lowest price," and then it would say the next lowest is that.
That's
Tiger
a good feeling. Yeah. That would be nice. Oh, yeah. I actually am at the lowest price. Newegg is in there. Home Depot.
You should throw it up on the screen.
All right, let's see. Here, let me find. I'm scrolling back. Pioneer. All right, let's see. Throwing it up on the screen. It's not. It didn't.
Yeah, sometimes it won't come down. Right. If you don't see the little pop,
it's probably thinking. Right.
It's just not. Well, it may not. It just may not be available at the other places. It just may not be there.
Oh, this is such a rare item. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
that's why.
That could be it. Yeah. And I saw that a couple times, depending on what it was. But just go to, go to the Amazon front page.
Wait a minute.
There you go. What do you got? What is
this item costs $177 less at Abe's of Maine.
Jeez, if you bought it.
Wait a minute. I bought it. Oh, I guess they jacked it up a little bit because I bought it from Amazon. I could have just gone directly. See, that would have been a good thing to know if I'd gone directly to Abe's of Maine.
I'm amazed that Abe's of Maine is even one of the sites that they're monitoring.
That's why it took them so long. They had to get Abe. He was asleep.
Yeah, Maine's still on dial-up, I think.
What? You want the price? Well, let me check. Hey, Joe, we got a price on the Kuro TV? What? No, I don't think so. Anyway, that's a great
awesome
ad.
It's awesome.
I love it. Love it. That's software, but we're going to take it as a tip because now you have an actual software.
Well, it's about saving money. My tip is you can save money.
Money saving.
We all buy online, so this is something we can use going forward. Yeah. Sorry I didn't have it before Christmas.
Darth Emma says, email them, they'll give you a discount.
There you go. Yeah, you should.
Hey, Abe, I thought you were the cheapest. You are, but just
not for me.
Not for me. You don't like me, eh? How many times you want me to say Abe's of Maine on Twit Live, eh? You want me to stop making fun of your accent?
Right, lower the price.
Lower the price.
Otherwise, I will be doing this for the entire year.
By the way, you know where Abe's of Maine is?
No.
Brooklyn.
Please tell me it's awesome. Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. It's like Arizona iced tea is from New Jersey.
It's a bunch of Hasids. The same guys at J&R and every other store.
Yeah,
they said
it probably is J&R. That's probably what it is.
We could maybe make it be a little. Maybe make it if we were from Maine. They would say, "Oh,
it's Abe's of Main
thrifty.
Street." I guess you didn't look closely enough.
Maybe it is Main Street.
Abe's of Maine. That's good.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of this place before you mentioned.
I have bought stuff from them before. You know what? They're just like all the other, New York. They're in Jersey now apparently, but all the other New York, electronics places, which usually have good deals. And usually I get a call from them saying, "So I see you bought a TV. Would you like a $100 HDMI cable?" Some upsale of some kind, and I didn't this time, so I felt pretty good about that. I did get a Russian guy though. "Hello, we have delivery for you." I mean, seriously, it was the delivery guy's Russian.
This place is it's like a office park in New Jersey.
Yeah. Oh, you found it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a very New Englandy office park.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can see the fall foliage outside. It's nice.
Yeah. Abe's of Maine. Come see us.
Wow.
All right. In the Teterboro Airport.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Exactly. Wow. Anyway. Okay.
Do you have a software pick, Mr. Thorne?
I do. One of the cool things you can do during the holidays, again, is to, actually make gifts. There are all kinds of things. And every year I make a calendar for the kitchen, that has photos throughout the year. And we make, and I make photo books as well. And people ask me about this stuff. I use different software all the time. So the one that I'm working with this year is called Booksmart, and it's part of blurb.com. And blurb.com is a place we can go to make books, but they also have regular books, but I use it for photo books. So they have different templates and so forth. So the software is called Booksmart. It's free.
I've used Blurb and Lulu, but you like Books? Yep. Oh, Booksmart is Blurb's. That's right. Okay.
Booksmart is Blurb's.
It's their software. Yeah.
Now, for the calendar this year, I actually did use Lulu, and I don't know if it was the first time. I don't think this is what I used last year. I couldn't find what I used last year, so I'm not actually sure.
Booksmart is great software. It really is.
Booksmart works well, and it's good for books. And I don't write stories. I mean, I make a photo book, of whatever, maybe photos from a trip or photos from the year or whatever it is.
Right.
Obviously, in this day and age, we don't have photo albums, like we used to when we were growing up. So this sort of takes the place of that, because sometimes it's nice just to have a book. It's just here are pictures from an event or something like that. So. So that's the pick of the week. And then I would say, calendar-wise, I'm not actually sure I could recommend Lulu for the calendar. I did make the calendar this year.
Your own pictures on the calendar, like your trips to Holland and so forth?
Yeah. The way I do the calendar is I look at the photos we have for that month from last year.
Oh, that's neat. What a good idea.
Yeah. So actually, the Lulu calendar maker was a little... limited. I
think Blurb does better photo books, frankly, to be honest.
That seemed to work well for me. So, and this year I made a few photo books, and they were in Blurb. So
they do full bleed. They've really got excellent printing. I think it's
really nice.
I really like them. Are they more expensive?
I don't actually. I've never shopped these from a price standpoint. I think they're all pretty comparable.
See, Lulu is more the idea of your self-publishing.
It's like a book, right? So, for example, we had...
these are not bad. A large landscape book, 13 by 11 inches, with 20 to 40 pages is $55. Hardcover. I mean, that's how much a coffee table book would cost anyway. If you want, it gets more expensive the more pages, obviously, but I think that's nice.
Earlier this year, we talked about, it was Keith Curtis, had written a book about after the software wars, about his contention that open source software and Linux in particular would overtake Windows in the future and all that. And that was a book that he self-published. And I want to say, I think he did it on Lulu.
Yeah, that's how I recommend people do it.
Yeah.
Because the way Lulu does it, it's great. You can print the book.
It's on demand, essentially.
On demand, right? You set the cost. They tell you this is how much we're going to charge. This is how much we're going to take, and then you set the cost whatever you want to make above that. And it's printed on demand. They do an excellent job of it. I've bought books from Lulu before. They're indistinguishable from the book you would buy in the bookstore. Right. But there's no cost to you at all.
Right, which is the way to go. When you're otherwise you'd have to.
Remember, people used to go to the
upfront cost.
Yeah, the vanity presses. And it cost you $1,000 for 100 copies, and you'd get the 100 copies. And now what do I do?
Then you'd never give them away. Right. Yeah, they were kindling for the fireplace after a while.
I think it was was it called Vantage? Something like that. Vantage Press.
Yeah, that sounds exactly right. Yeah. I think that's.
And I don't know if Vantage Press is still around because Lulu was
curious now. I would be surprised if they didn't offer some kind of on-demand thing now, but maybe not.
They
Vantage Press, absolutely.
Yeah. Subsidy book publishers of traditional high-quality format books. They're gone.
I think it's telling that this website is so horrible.
Look at it. Their history. They're gone. Yeah. I mean, why would you do this? The only people who do this are people who don't know about Lulu.
Yeah, these look like those, book club books, slightly smaller than regular-sized hardcover books.
Hey, if you're paying for it, whatever you can do to save money. Here's the online subsidy publishing. Is it for you? Oh, this is the worst site. Oh, my God.
It really is bad.
It's so awful.
Yeah.
Can you afford the fee?
No.
If you can answer yes to one or more of these questions, you should seriously considering financing the publication of your work.
Yeah.
Can you afford the fee is number one. Do you have deep faith in your work and believe it should be read even by a limited audience?
Yikes.
Yeah. My Aunt Ginny published our family chronicle.
Nice.
That way. And it's
Did it
expensive.
ever become a computer game? Or
no. Yes, that was the one with the Laporte story with the covered wagon where all the settlers ate each other after they got stuck in Donner Pass. It's not a story we like to repeat.
Yeah.
A story of true grit and cannibalism.
Nice. Hey, so what's Christmas for you, Leo? What's your story?
My daughter's in Paris. She left for Paris yesterday because she wants to see her real family.
Yikes.
We're just her American family now. Her biological family.
the less desirable.
Yeah, the one she didn't choose. No, I'm being facetious. She loves France. She's a Francophile. She's going to be in Paris right now. She'll be in Paris for New Year's, but she's going back to Rennes, where she went to school last year, and visiting all her friends and family. So it's just Henry and Jennifer and I and me, and we're going to just kind of have a very quiet Christmas, and until Henry gets the synthesizer, the wah-wah pedal, and the drum machine, and then it's going to be a very loud Christmas. How about you, family?
Excuse me. Yeah, Stephanie's parents are up from Florida. They'll be here. Her brother will be over at Christmas. I'm having my parents over tonight. My brother will have some kind of what I call Paul's fantasy sushi night. We'll see
where you pretend there's sushi?
Place. Yeah, no, there's a place in Dedham that I'm oddly famous at, I think because I go there so much. But I was constructing some kind of food stuff for tonight, and this got nixed by the woman at the front, and then the sushi chef looked at it. He said, no, and started writing in Chinese all over it. So, excuse me.
Well, I hope you have
thinking about sushi.
I was speaking of sushi and Chinese. I was going to do the Jewish thing, which is go to a Chinese restaurant and a movie tomorrow.
Yes,
and that might be fun.
I've always wanted to do that.
That might be fun. I haven't seen Avatar yet. Have you seen it yet?
No, but I will.
I think that'd be a good Christmas movie.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Paul, have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you, sir. You
and we'll talk to you New Year's Eve for the live show at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And
I'll have to have a magnum of champagne.
Let's get drunk. What do you say?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah.
It might be more coherent. You know, this could be something to
it could be a new thing.
Look forward to.
I will bring the champagne.
Okay.
If you bring the flute.
The flute?
Never mind.
Okay.
Have a Merry Christmas, Paul. And all of you, thank you so much for joining us all year long. It's been a wonderful year for Windows Weekly, and we look forward to a great year in 2010. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Merry Christmas, everybody.